Uma Devi, a Polish lady, also known as Wanda Dynowska, converted to Hinduism and authored the teachings of Sri Ramana Maharshi, which attracted seekers from Poland to Sri Ramana. She translated the Gita into Polish and started a publishing house that printed many Indian texts in Polish. And she was a frequent visitor to Ramana Ashram as early as 1934. She told the Maharshi about her vision of Shiva and asked him as to how it could be everlasting. Sri Ramana told her that a vision depends on the subject. It would appear and disappear. The value of the vision is the same as of the seer, the master told her. And a vision can never be eternal. Therefore, inquire, who am I? And sink deep within and abide in the self. When she asked how to effect it as quickly as possible, the reply was, there is no question of time. Surrender to him and abide in his will, whether he appears or vanishes. Await his doings. If you ask him to do as you please, it is not surrender, but a command. You cannot have him obey you and yet think that you have surrendered. He knows what is best and when and how to do it. Leave everything entirely to him. His is the burden. No longer you have to have any cares. All your cares are his. Such is true surrender and also true bhakti. Or, the Maharshi continued, inquire to whom these questions arise. Dive deep in the heart and remain as the self. One of these two ways is open to the aspirant. Think of the man who sees only the cloth and not the cotton of which it is made, or the man who sees the pictures moving on the screen in a cinema show and not the screen itself as the background. Or again, the man who sees the letters which he reads, but not the paper on which they are written. The objects are consciousness and forms. The ordinary person sees the objects in the universe, but not the consciousness in these forms. One cannot see God and yet retain individuality. The seer and the seen unite into the one being. There is no cognizer, nor cognition, nor the cognized. All merge into one supreme Shiva only. From the moment of her arrival in India, Dynowska immersed herself in Indian life at many levels: spiritual, intellectual, social, and political. She studied yoga with Sri Ramana Maharshi and frequently returned to the holy mountain Arunachala, where she was initiated into deeper levels of Hinduism, and made a pilgrimage to Ishwar Ashram in the Himalayas to study Kashmir Shaivism with Swami Lakshmanju. She wrote prolifically on Hinduism, including poetry dedicated to her Hindu mentors and one to Maurice Frydman, a Polish Jew and a fellow theosophist whose Indian name was Bharatananda, and with whom she collaborated, publishing the Polish Indian Library, for which she published books in Hindi, Tamil, and English. Working with the Hindu poet Harishchandra, she worked on the translation of Polish literature and poetry, ranging from Kochanowski to clandestine poetry of the Polish underground in World War II. Imagine the crinkles of the Dalai Lama's face sparkling with the schoolboy delight at the mention of her name, as he said, "She was Motherji." Wanda Dynowska was otherwise known as Tenzing Choden or Amala Motherji to the Tibetans she helped, and Uma Devi amongst the rest of India. In fact, Gandhiji was the one who presented India's most influential Polish woman with the name of Uma Devi. It's rather hard to name drop better connections than those of Uma Devi, but how come you haven't heard of her? The Polish woman who helped expand the hearts and minds of many Indians, among others, was on her own quest for spiritual liberation, unconcerned with being a social helper or celebrity. And therein lies much of her success. She was a linguist, a woman of literature, a loving human, and an adamant fighter of oppressors, who carried with her the pain the Soviets inflicted upon Poland, and she took that to her death. Strangely enough, Russia is where our story starts. And thanks to the stellar documentary that's linked here, the world is more aware of the beautiful life she led. In 1888, in St. Petersburg, the birthplace of Wanda Dynowska, the young girl was born into an aristocratic Polish family, and thus was educated by an array of tutors who scaffolded her learning to a point she could be considered a veritable genius by modern day standards. Wanda was fluent in Russian, Polish, German, French, Spanish, Italian, English, and Latvian. Later in life, she would add Tamil and Hindi to her arsenal of language mastery. According to multiple sources, despite her fluency in Russian, Wanda severely disliked communicating in the tongue that oppressed the people of her homeland. Facts like these form the background for her later attempts at aiding and protecting those disenfranchised by countries whose foreign policy was merely a thinly veiled method of bullying other nations.